Today on Good Morning Maine, schools in Waterville were closed yesterday after a person was found dead inside of a school bus. Plus, a cybersecurity breach on a Tennessee-based healthcare tech company is affecting pharmacies across the state of Maine. And our Augusta reporter, Corey Bouchard, was at the unveiling of the design to replace the iconic Maine license plate. Good morning and welcome to Good Morning Maine. I'm Emma Smith and thank you for tuning in this morning. Let's get a first check of that forecast. Some rain is on the way, folks. Conrad Zapinski joins us now.
Our morning weather is brought to you by Washington County Community College. Discover choices, create success. Sign up for spring and summer courses now. And get ready, folks. A big low pressure system will be back in the area very, very soon. We're talking by tomorrow into Thursday. For now, though, pretty calm conditions. Not much going on. No precipitation falling in the state. Temperature-wise, though, we're a little bit chilly, but still well above average. Look at Millinocket, 16 degrees here in town. We're at 22. Rockland, Bar Harbor 22, and then Machias is hovering at around 20 degrees. The winds, though, are pretty calm all over the state. Just a light breeze into Greenville at around 6 miles per hour. Wind gusts around 10, but overall, though, we are all pretty calm. For today, though, winds will be picking up. We're going to see that southeast wind gusting around 20 miles per hour under a mostly sunny sky. Temperature-wise, though, check this out. Well above average temperatures hovering in those mid-40s. Now, for tonight, though, we're going to stay mild. Upper 30s outside, increasing clouds, and some rain will be likely late overnight, with a south wind gusting around 25 to even 30 miles per hour. For tomorrow, a lot of rain will be in the area. We're talking temperatures near record highs around 50 degrees. The rain will be heavy at times as well, and very gusty conditions, blowing that rain around up to 30 to 35 mile per hour wind gusts, so get ready for that. Hour by hour forecast does show warm temperatures returning in those mid to upper 40s today.
Thank you, Conrad. Police are investigating after a person was found dead inside of a school bus in Waterville. Our Grace Blanchard has the details.
Just before 5 o'clock Monday morning, the Waterville Police Department received a report of a deceased individual found inside a school bus.
There was a person slumped over the steering wheel of a bus. We responded and officers located a person that was deceased. Our detectives came in and conducted an investigation, and at this point we believe that it was an isolated incident and there's no threat to the public.
The bus was located in the junior high school parking lot. As a result, all Waterville public schools were closed. According to the superintendent, there was no threat made directly to the school district. He said in a message to the community that the decision to close was to give the police department the time and space needed to conduct their investigation. No identity has been released. However, the police department says the individual was not a student or staff member of the school district. According to the superintendent, classes are scheduled to resume on Tuesday, and the situation remains under investigation. In Waterville, I'm Grace Blanchard for ABC 7 and Fox 22 News.
Maine State Police are looking for anyone who may have seen a crash on the interstate in Augusta yesterday morning. It happened near mile marker 113 just before 7:30. A state police spokesperson says a 19-year-old Newcastle man was driving northbound when his Toyota Tacoma went off the road into the median and struck a tree. He was taken to the hospital with life-threatening injuries. Speed and road conditions at the time are considered to be factors in the crash. Anyone who may have witnessed the crash is urged to contact Trooper Keith Barton at 624-7076. 6 people are facing charges after Brewer police executed a search warrant yesterday morning. A statement from the department says officers went to 6 Chambers Court at 9 a.m. as part of a drug investigation. According to the statement, officers found fentanyl, cocaine, base, and firearms. The location was within 1,000 feet of a park that has been designated as a safe zone, which is an aggravating factor. 31-year-old James Manning is charged with aggravated trafficking of drugs and violation of release. 34-year-old Richard Wentworth of Bangor is charged with violation of release conditions and obstructing government administration. 33-year-old Haley Spalding and 30-year-old Aaron Davis were each arrested on 2 active warrants. 33-year-old Kenneray Davis of Brewer was summoned for endangering the welfare of a child. And 33-year-old Mark Tooley of Bangor is charged with endangering the welfare of a child and operating after suspension. Brewer police say the investigation is continuing and more charges are likely. In other news now, the Bangor School Department is warning the public about an alleged scam in our area involving fraudulent checks being sent out to unsuspecting recipients. According to a spokesperson for Bangor Schools, the scam targets individuals who use online marketplaces. They say the checks falsely claim to be issued by the Bangor School Department and may be accompanied by a request to give funds exceeding the agreed amount of sale to a mover who comes to pick up the item. The school department says a number of fake checks are circulating and they're working with local law enforcement to investigate the matter. The department says if you think you've received one of these checks, do not attempt to cash or deposit it. Doing so could result in a financial loss. Officials say that if you have provided goods or services after receiving any fraudulent checks, please contact local law enforcement. All right, moving on now. A cybersecurity breach on a Tennessee-based healthcare technology company is affecting pharmacies here across the state of Maine. Our Doug Banks tells us how one Bangor pharmacy is adjusting its operations and what DHHS recommends those with MaineCare should do.
A cybersecurity attack on United Health Group-owned Change Healthcare last week is still affecting medical systems nationwide. Change Healthcare, which serves as a vendor that operates MaineCare's pharmacy claims system, released an incident report on Wednesday stating they're experiencing a cybersecurity issue expected to last at least through the day. Since then, their servers have been disconnected to prevent future impact. While they work to resolve the issue, back in Maine, organizations like DHHS and Northern Light are dealing with the ripple effects. DHHS says Change Healthcare informed the department that it's not aware that any personal data of MaineCare members has been compromised, and MaineCare is temporarily unavailable to pay pharmacies for filling prescriptions for MaineCare members. A spokesperson for Northern Light Health telling us they're actively assisting patients who are covered by some impacted insurance providers, including MaineCare, stating providing patient care is our top priority, and community members can rest assured that we remain ready and able to serve them during this time.
We may see the financial effects for our pharmacy as early as the end of this week.
The privately owned Bangor Drug Company services retail and long-term patient needs. They were given permission by MaineCare to dispense medication, but only 3 days worth at a time.
Because we cannot verify eligibility, cannot verify coverage. That's a challenge if you're dispensing medications and you find out after the fact that, it either wasn't covered or the patient wasn't eligible to receive it.
DHHS recommends MaineCare members in need to fill a prescription to ask pharmacists about their options, keep receipts if medication is paid out of pocket, and for members who are asked to pay for their prescriptions but are unable to, call the MaineCare Pharmacy Help Desk at 1-866-796-2463. For more information, visit our website, foxbangor.com. In Bangor, Doug Banks, ABC 7 and Fox 22 News.
Chronic lack of funding and staffing shortfalls are two of the challenges cited by long-term care workers for the severe shortage of beds available at nursing homes and long-term care facilities. Yesterday, advocates rallied at the State House to push lawmakers to increase funding for these facilities. They say the current supplemental budget includes just 1/10 of the funding needed to sustain the industry in Maine. And failure to get all the funding needed will mean even more facility closures in parts of the state that sorely need these services.
And I stand here today with Senator Bennett as part of this call to action to impress upon my colleagues in the legislature that the time to act is now. Long-term care facilities, the current funding in the supplemental budget is far too low. Maine has the oldest population in the country, and yet our long-term care facilities are chronically underfunded. In 1995, our state had 132 nursing homes. Now there are only 81, with some that are on the verge of closing, so that 81 number may change very quickly.
According to the Maine Healthcare Association, currently Maine facilities are having to use more expensive travel nurses to fill the gaps in their workforce. After years of public service, Herman's town manager is resigning. Josh Berry has held several roles at the Herman town office over the last 8 years. Berry worked as the town's tax assessor before becoming interim town manager and then town manager. Berry says he has enjoyed working with the town council and the other employees at the Herman town office during his tenure, but he plans to go back to his roots.
I'm getting back into the tax assessing field. There's a lot of municipalities that are in need. The municipal workforce in general is pretty thin right now. It was really something I was looking to do prior to taking on the manager's position.
Berry's last day on the job is March 29th. The town is now looking for his successor. The Dover-Foxcroft Select Board has voted in favor of removing the Mayo Mill Dam, but the ultimate decision now rests in the hands of voters. The recommendation came in a 6-1 vote during the town's council meeting last night. This comes after the town's steering committee published a report advising that the dam be removed. According to the Dover-Foxcroft town manager, Jack Kluge, the facility has not been operational since 2007. The town formed the steering committee last year to explore the future of the dam. Kluge says the council made its decision based on a variety of factors, including the cost of repairing the dam and flood hazards to lakeside properties. After conducting a year-long study, the steering committee says the best option is to return the Piscataquis River to its natural state, allowing the town to focus on revitalization efforts. The select board also voted unanimously to leave the decision up to the voters during the town's referendum election in June. All right, the time now is 6:12. Coming up next on Good Morning Maine, the latest evaluation of the Augusta Civic Center reports that it could need millions of dollars of repairs. We'll hear about the possible steps forward, but before we go, let's take another quick look at that forecast. Mostly sun today, high of 46 degrees, a beautiful day today. Although tonight the clouds will be increasing. Rain is likely late in the night, high of 39 overnight though. Tomorrow we're likely to see rain most of the day, high of 28.
Quitting smoking, vaping, and other tobacco may be tough, but you can do it. Even if you don't get it right the first time, don't give up. Working with a quit coach increases your chances of successfully quitting, especially combined with quit medications. That's why each quit program through the Maine Quit Link offers free patches, gum, and/or lozenges and helps you build a customized quit plan. Call 1-800-QUIT-NOW or enroll online at mainequitlink.com. It's free and it works.
Oh, what a good time we will have. You can make it happen. Yeah.
Try dietary supplements from Voltaren for healthy joints.
Goose River Farm and Meat Store is conveniently located on Route 3 across from Hammond Lumber in Belfast. They have a wide selection of meat and poultry, including beef, pork, lamb, chicken, duck, rabbit, and turkey. Open Tuesday through Saturday.
Oversharing can be weird.
How you doing, buddy? I'm more excited than a mosquito flying into a nudist colony.
Weekdays at 9 on ABC7.
When I left the car with him, he assured me that my car would be safe. But then there was this fire.
The mid part of my property was burnt. Every car, every tractor. How do you hold the defendant accountable for an act of God?
Hot Bench. Tuesday at 3 on ABC7.
Welcome back to Good Morning Maine. I'm Emma Smith. Getting high school and college students pumped up about math and science for life. That's the goal behind a scholarship competition put out by Tyler Technologies in Yarmouth. The company partners with students who create apps. The winning ideas in the Maine App Challenge receive college scholarships. The company says it's investing in the next generation by going where the future employees are.
We have a brand new office going up in Orono, right at the doorstep of the University of Maine. So we look to expand that presence with the University of Maine and expand the footprint of our internships with the University of Maine.
Tyler says it has donated more than $90,000 in college scholarships to Maine students. One of Maine's largest event venues needs an upgrade. City leaders say the aging Augusta Civic Center needs millions of dollars in renovations. Owen Kingsley has the story.
After a busy tourney week with high school basketball, water continues to drip through the roof of the Augusta Civic Center in multiple spots around the building.
That makes it pretty challenging when you're trying to have an event and we have bad weather.
The city has $2 million set aside for those repairs. But as the venue turned 50 years old last year, it sparked conversation about the other repairs and renovations the building might need.
There's a lot in here that's at end of life.
Last summer, the city found the building is due for a new HVAC and electrical systems. Among other renovations, they estimated a price tag of about $33 million. The alternative is a new building. The city's mayor says that would, of course, give them the longest lifespan, but may skyrocket the price tag to more than $100 million.
There's always the appeal of having a new building and the longevity that a new building would give you, but you got to weigh that against the cost of doing that and the impact on the taxpayer.
The Civic Center serves a lot of purposes in central Maine. They have events booked for nearly 300 days across the 2024 and 25 calendars. It acted as a vaccination clinic and provided a vital place for Maine's legislature to convene during COVID.
We're going to do our very best to keep it in as the best condition it can be until those decisions are made.
While Augusta weighs the options, leaders do have an example to look towards in Portland at the Cross Insurance Arena. The building is only 4 years younger, and they renovated the venue back in 2012.
The building is in very good shape now, so we're not concerned about those sort of structural things that you mentioned. Our goal was to make it feasible as a place to host events for the foreseeable future.
All the warm weather we've been seeing has unfortunately forced the cancellation of some community events. The Can-Am International Dog Sled Race we reported on last week is one of them. The much anticipated race has been officially canceled. The announcement was made on the organization's Facebook page over the weekend. Craig also brought it up briefly yesterday on the Good Morning Maine show. The race was canceled due to this year's unusually warm weather, causing insufficient snow coverage on the trails. In the post, the organization stated, quote, "The health and safety of our mushers and their incredible dogs is our priority. The warmth and lack of snow has led us to conclude that moving forward with this year's race could compromise the well-being of all involved," end quote. Maine Maritime Academy held its annual regimental change of command ceremony in Castine on Monday afternoon. The ceremony, deep in custom and tradition, serves as both the symbolic and physical transfer of the authority and responsibilities from the graduating first-class midshipman to the second-class midshipman, who will lead the regiment from this ceremony until the following February. The exchange consists of an exclamation by their new leader, where he or she states their readiness to take charge. This is followed by an exchange of salutes and an announcement of the change of leadership. Congratulations to all of Maine Maritime Academy on this great tradition. And my brother is signed up for Maine Maritime Academy in the fall. I'm so proud of him. All right, the time now is 6:18. After the break, we'll check out the new Pine Tree Maine State license plate, which is causing quite the stir. A lot of people really don't like it, and a lot of people like it. We'll hear about it. Plus, that full weather forecast right after the break.
I got hurt in a car accident. Give me one good reason why I should call the twos.
How about 3 great reasons you should call us? 1, we make it easy. We'll deal with the insurance company so you don't have to. 2, there's no upfront cost. Read the result. Just listen to this.
I called the twos after my accident, and Lowry and Associates got me $300,000.
Call the twos. We win for you.
If you're hurt in an accident, what do? Call 222-2222.
The hot, crispy filet of fish with soft steamed buns, tender, flaky fish, melty cheese, and tangy tartar sauce. You either love it or you haven't tried it yet. Now at McDonald's, order a crispy, delicious Filet-O-Fish, a tender, juicy McCrispy or spicy McCrispy, 2 for only $6. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
Whether you can pinpoint the problem or can't quite put your finger on it, the friendly professionals from Coastal Auto Parts can help point you in the right direction. With Maine's largest network of parts, you can trust your vehicle will have what it needs to get you to the moments that matter most. Because Napa knows the keys to a winning team. And with 29 locations in Maine, Coastal Auto Parts helps keep our communities running. Team up together with the fuel that keeps us firing on all cylinders. Coastal Auto Parts is owned and operated by a Maine family that cares.
If you're one of the 900,000 Mainers with a Chickadee license plate, you have a little over a year left before you're saying bye-bye birdie. Our Augusta reporter, Corey Bouchard, was at the unveiling of the design to replace the iconic Maine plate.
Beginning in 2025, Mainers will be saying goodbye to their Chickadee plates and hello to the new Pine Tree plate.
Maine has had a number of different license plates over time, but the Chickadee plate is one of the longest and is now almost 25 years old.
Public safety is the main reason why the Chickadee plates are flying the coop, says Secretary of State Shanna Bellows. From May 1st, 2025 on, all new license plates issued will be the new Pine Tree plate design.
Damaged or worn out plates, and you've seen them if you start checking them out, increase risks to the general public, whether it's lack of visibility at night or in a snowstorm, due to loss of the plate's retroreflectivity over time.
There's an alternative blank plate for those who aren't fans of the new design, which Secretary Bellows says drew its inspiration from Maine's past.
The new plate is a modern adaptation of the original 1901 Maine state flag. It contains the Maine's official state tree, the eastern white pine, and the North Star, 2 images also contained in the Maine state seal.
The design for the plate actually came right from within Secretary Bellows' nest.
Actually a random act of artistry. I was playing around with the 1901 design, and I had a flag design that I had previously designed just for fun in my cubicle at my desk, and the secretary was walking by and said, "Hey, this is amazing. What if we took this and revamped it?" And it ended up being the design that the Transportation Committee came to full consensus on.
Secretary Bellows adds that the plate replacement process will be done at the town offices when you renew your registration. In Augusta, I'm Corey Bouchard for ABC7 and Fox 22 News.
It's a big change. I know I'll be getting one. I have the Chickadee license plate. Okay, the time now is 6:23. Let's get a full look at that forecast with meteorologist Conrad Sipinski.
Today's weather is brought to you by Washington County Community College. Discover choices, create success. Sign up for spring and summer courses now. And folks, get ready. A big low pressure system is on the way. For now, it's in the western states, right about here, North Dakota, South Dakota, into Minnesota. We are looking at some heavy snow where winter storm warnings have been posted. Some places well over 6 inches of snow. All of that's going to work its way right into our area. It's going to go from west to east, of course, and we're going to get in on a lot of rain at first. Then a little bit of rain and snow overnight. Not much accumulations of snow, mainly a rain event all over the state. Look at this. It's going to be moving in past midnight. So by those early morning hours on Wednesday, rain will be moving in heavy at times, continuing throughout the day. There will be a couple of breaks in the day, and then the heavier rain rolls in later into those afternoon hours on Wednesday into Thursday morning. Then a cold front comes by, a very sharp cold front will be coming by, transitioning that rain into some snow. So on the back end, we might have just a little tiny bit of snow accumulations. But rainfall wise though, wow, check this out. Bar Harbor over 2 inches of rain into Machias. So right by the coast, we're looking at over 2 inches of rain. Here in town, Dover Foxcroft, we're looking at over 1 inch of rain, even up to 1.5 inches. And then closer to Greenville, hovering at around 1 inch of rain. Now, snowfall wise though, we're not looking at much at all. We're looking at maybe half an inch to an inch here in town on the back end, and then up north, anywhere 1 to 2 inches of snow. So very, very minimal accumulations only on the back end. But watch out, folks. We're going to get that flash freeze where temperatures are going to go from well above freezing to below freezing just like that, around 5 degrees of cooling per hour. So get ready for that. Temperatures near record highs on Wednesday, very cold by Thursday, and then right back up. Look at this, near record high territory by the weekend and into beginning of next week. Now for today though, mid 40s outside, above average of course, mostly sunny skies. It's going to be a bit windy as well. For tonight though, that's when that rain arrives. We're going to see increasing clouds. Rain will be here after midnight. Temperatures around 39, so all rain to start. It's going to be windy as well. For tomorrow though, rain heavy at times. Temperatures near record highs around 50 degrees with some really gusty winds. Our extended forecast outlook does show some snow on the back end on Thursday, and then we warm back up to the 40s by Saturday.
In 10 years, Lisa Schneider will have an amazing second act, thanks to career reskilling courses from AARP to help make sure her income lives as long as she does. The younger you are, the more you need AARP.
What don't you know about AI? Like, will it help at your job or help lose your job? Can it help with your health or prescribe the wrong information? And how do you know what's a deep fake? So, should you be going all in on AI? This week, GMA's got the answers.
I had a slip and fall accident. I wasn't sure what to do. Joe Bornstein's office handled everything. The experience was much better than what I expected. They were very professional and responsive to all my questions and concerns. I highly recommend the law offices of Joe Bornstein. Over 25,000 victories for injured Mainers just like me. If you've been injured in an accident, call Joe. It's that easy. Tell him you mean business.
Call Joe today for a free case evaluation. There's never a fee unless you win.
Transform your surroundings with Paramount Paving, located in Bangor. They are your paving and seal coating experts. Whether it's residential maintenance to full commercial projects, Paramount Paving delivers quality that lasts. Book before June 1st and enjoy a $250 Visa gift card upon completion of your next paving project. Call us today at 602-8931 or visit us at ParamountPavingLLC.com. Paramount Paving, setting the standard for excellence. When it comes to paving, we are Paramount.
The Orono Arcade is an ideal birthday party destination. We have the best arcade video games, including Tomb Raider, Halo, Need for Speed, Mario Kart, and Luigi's Mansion. You are guaranteed to have hours of fun. Plus, we also have a 9-hole blacklight mini golf course that changes weekly. Allow us to provide hours of fun for you and your friends. You bring the cake, we'll provide the entertainment. Call us today to schedule your birthday party event, 889-3166.
There's one number you need to know. It's called Joe.
Welcome back to Good Morning Maine. I'm Emma Smith. The months-long Israel-Hamas war continues escalating tensions across the Middle East and the world. But the White House believes talks surrounding a new temporary ceasefire are picking up steam. Fox News correspondent Jackie Ibanez takes a closer look at what the plan could entail and how soon it could be expected to take place.
My hope is by next Monday we'll have a ceasefire.
President Joe Biden expressing hope a ceasefire in the Israel-Hamas war could happen by early next week. This as negotiators continue ironing out a plan, one that could potentially see a 6-week pause to the fighting. During that time, it's expected some of the Hamas hostages in Gaza would be released in exchange for hundreds of Palestinian prisoners held in Israeli jails. The plan would also involve Israel letting truckloads of critical aid be delivered throughout Gaza every day. United Nations data reveals more than 500,000 Palestinians in Gaza are starving.
I wish death for the children because I cannot get them bread. I cannot feed them.
Diseases are spreading and safe food and water are hard to come by, especially in the northern part of the region, where the UN says aid trucks haven't been able to deliver supplies for over a month. Meanwhile, Israeli airstrikes across the southern town of Rafah continue driving up the civilian death toll. More than 1 million people are now along the border, with Egypt trying to avoid becoming caught in the crossfire. Even if a new temporary ceasefire is brokered, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says IDF troops will still launch a ground assault in Rafah to crush the last remaining Hamas strongholds in Gaza. Jackie Ibanez, Fox News.
Primary day in Michigan. Both Republicans and Democrats are voting to choose their candidate. President Biden and former President Trump are expected to win, but there are concerns in the Democratic Party about a protest vote against Biden. ABC's Perry Russum is in Washington.
Today, a critical test for President Joe Biden in Michigan.
We need to show President Biden and all the other candidates that we support Palestine.
The president expected to face backlash from some Democratic voters for his early unconditional support of Israel in its war against Hamas after the October 7th attack.
Muslim American community, our message, yes, indeed, February 27th in Michigan, we are voting uncommitted.
Voting uncommitted is seen as a protest vote against the president. His stance on the war has shifted. Earlier this month, Biden calling Israel's response over the top.
A lot of innocent people who are in trouble and dying, and it's got to stop.
In the 2020 general election, Biden narrowly won Michigan, a key state in winning him the White House.
If a sizable portion of the Democratic electorate here in Michigan votes uncommitted during the primary, that will be a 5-alarm fire for the White House.
I worship God and I serve the people.
Biden continues to face protests across the country. Protesters were detained in New York City yesterday as Biden announces he hopes to have a ceasefire in Gaza by Monday.
My national security advisor tells me that we're close. We're close. It's not done yet.
But the hope of a ceasefire appears to be too late to persuade voters in Michigan.
Knowing that there are tens of thousands of individuals in Michigan who are planning on withholding the votes not only in the upcoming November election, and that poses the idea that a threat like Donald Trump can once again resume office. And so the question should be to the president, what will he do to prevent that unraveling of our democracy?
Over on the Republican side, polls show Nikki Haley trailing former President Trump by more than 50 points. Haley is staying in the race, saying Trump does not have enough support to beat Biden in November. Perry Russum, ABC News, Washington.
We turn now to the emotional testimony at the manslaughter trial of Hannah Gutierrez-Reed. She was in charge of weapons for Alec Baldwin's movie Rust on the day of the fatal shooting in 2021. Now, a fellow crew member is sharing new details about that tragic day. ABC's Andrew Dimbert has the story.
I think the first person I made eye contact with was Helena, who was clearly injured.
Ross Adiego was a crew member on the Rust movie set. On the stand yesterday, he described the moment cinematographer Helena Hutchins was shot by a bullet mistakenly placed in a gun held by Alec Baldwin.
She was starting to go flush, and I think holding her right side. So they were trying to stabilize her to get her in a helicopter and get her to whatever ER they felt was appropriate.
The jury yesterday also watched a video of Baldwin handling that gun not long before the fatal shot was fired.
So whip it out.
Adiego testified that safety standards on set were not up to par and singled out Gutierrez-Reed for a lack of professionalism.
She wasn't necessarily as serious or professional as I'm accustomed to with the other armorers that I've worked with. I don't know that I've ever seen an armor pull loose ammo out of a fanny pack.
Adiego also claimed that Alec Baldwin was pressuring the crew to speed up production. As for Baldwin's claim that he never pulled the trigger, a firearms expert cast doubt on that theory.
In order for you to make the gun fire without pulling the trigger, when it was in the full cock position, you had to break it.
That's what I had to do in my lab. It would not fire without pulling the trigger in the full cock setting without being broken.
Andrew Dimbert, ABC News, New York.
Coming up on the second half of the newscast, the historic Fort Halifax Park in Winslow is in need of repairs. We'll hear about committee efforts to try and fix it. This and more as Good Morning Maine continues.
Introducing the Chevy family of SUVs. Do more with tech. Do more with safety. Do more with style. The Chevy family of SUVs. There's one for everything you do.
Drive yours away this President's Day weekend. Current qualified GM lessees can get this Trailblazer for around $299 a month. Or current Chevy owners get a $1,000 cash allowance when you purchase.
Commercial vehicles can be dangerous, and they usually carry big insurance policies. So whether you're hurt by a landscaping truck like this, a work van like this, or a big rig like this, we know commercial vehicle accidents, and we know how to get you the big money you may deserve. If any commercial vehicle hurts you, call the Twos. We win for you.
Hurt by a commercial vehicle? Call the Twos. We win for you. Call 222-2222.
Jamar Construction Products in Bangor continues to grow to meet our customers' needs, supplying products for site work contractors, concrete contractors, and survey and safety supplies. We are proud to be the local dealer for Hilti, Valley Blades, U.S. Fabrics, and Euclid Chemical, plus so much more. Stop by and see us at 1270 Hammond Street or give us a call at 907-4491. If you dig it, pour it, plow it, fasten it, lay it, or lift it, Jamar Construction Products can help you.
Spend an evening with James Taylor and his all-star band. The American icon is back on tour, June 30th, Main Savings Amphitheater. The multiple Grammy Award-winning James Taylor and a night full of his biggest hits. Tickets on sale now at waterfrontconcerts.com or ticketmaster.com. Spend the night with a friend, James Taylor.
You're watching ABC 7 Bangor.
Welcome back to Good Morning Maine. I'm Emma Smith, and today is Tuesday, February 27th, 2024, and today is National Big Breakfast Day. It's considered the most important meal of the day, and even if you eat breakfast at 10, 11, or noon, or later, I'd say this holiday is a great excuse to fuel up, fill your plate, caffeinate, hydrate, and have a better day because of it. Okay, now for some history. On this day in 1807, poet Henry Wadsworth Longfellow was born in Portland, Maine, which at the time was still considered part of Massachusetts, so it was considered Portland, Massachusetts. In 1872, Charlotte Ray, the first black female lawyer in the United States, graduated from Howard University. In 1922, the U.S. Supreme Court unanimously upheld the 19th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution, being the woman's right to vote. In 1949, Chaim Weizmann became the first president of the newly established State of Israel. In 1951, the 22nd Amendment to the Constitution was ratified, limiting U.S. presidents to 2 terms. This, of course, was a reaction to Franklin D. Roosevelt's election to an unprecedented 4 terms as president. In 1959, Boston Celtic Bob Cousy sets the NBA record with 28 assists, with the Celtics scoring 173 points against the Lakers. And in 1991, the U.S. president at the time, George H.W. Bush, ordered a ceasefire effective at midnight and declared victory in the Persian Gulf War, a conflict which was triggered by Iraq's invasion and occupation of Kuwait in August of 1990. For birthdays, today we have mixed martial artist Sean Strickland. He turns 33 today. Really a controversial guy. He's saying all sorts of dumb stuff all the time, but really fun to watch in a UFC match. Happy birthday to him. Singer Johnny Van Zant, known for being the current lead vocalist for Lynyrd Skynyrd. He's 64 today. And Jenny Farley, known especially by her nickname, JWoww, from the Jersey Shore, is 38 today. Happy birthday to them. All right, moving right along now. Meteorologist Conrad Zapinski says we're supposed to have a bit of rain tomorrow. Heavy rain most of the day. So beautiful day today, though. In the meantime, let's get a check of that forecast with meteorologist Conrad Zapinski.
Our morning weather is brought to you by Washington County Community College. Discover choices, create success. Sign up for spring and summer courses now. And get ready, folks. A big low pressure system will be back in the area very, very soon. We're talking by tomorrow into Thursday. For now, though, pretty calm conditions. Not much going on. No precipitation falling in the state. Temperature-wise, though, we're a little bit chilly, but still well above average. Look at Millinocket, 16 degrees here in town. We're at 22. Rockland, Bar Harbor, 22, and then Machias is hovering at around 20 degrees. The winds, though, are pretty calm all over the state. Just a light breeze into Greenville at around 6 miles per hour. Wind gusts around 10, but overall, though, we are all pretty calm. For today, though, winds will be picking up. We're going to see that southeast wind gusting around 20 miles per hour under a mostly sunny sky. Temperature-wise, though, check this out. Well above average temperatures hovering in those mid-40s. Now, for tonight, though, we're going to stay mild. Upper 30s outside. Increasing clouds and some rain will be likely late overnight, with a south wind gusting around 25 to even 30 miles per hour. For tomorrow, a lot of rain will be in the area. We're talking temperatures near record highs around 50 degrees. The rain will be heavy at times as well, and very gusty conditions, blowing that rain around up to 30 to 35 mile per hour wind gusts, so get ready for that. Hour by hour forecast does show warm temperatures returning in those mid to upper 40s today.
Thank you, Conrad. Well, following major flooding on the Kennebec River last December, the historic Fort Halifax Park in Winslow is in dire need of repairs. A new committee formed by the Winslow town manager is now in charge of assessing what can be fixed and replaced, while also looking into ways to prevent damage from future flooding. Our Jody Hersey has the story.
It was pretty catastrophic.
If Fort Halifax's last remaining blockhouse could talk, there would be no shortage of stories it could tell about the men who built it and those who later helped rescue it from flooding in April of 1987 and again in December of 2023. Raymond Karen, president of Friends at Fort Halifax, says about a foot of water made its way into the blockhouse during the December flooding, but the park's benches, gazebos, and performance stage sustained the most amount of damage.
The water hit the front of the stage, and it knocked the stage completely off its pilings and buckled the floor. The stage is damaged beyond repair.
Karen is one of 5 members of a newly formed committee in Winslow tasked with rebuilding the park and looking into ways to minimize future damage at the site.
Engineering is the key. A lot of things are near rivers, are near oceans, and there is a way to engineer things to be resistant to the floods.
The committee is looking into the possibility of a permanent structure and a portable structure, or using some combination of both at the park, a site which is used for concerts, weddings, and the town's 4th of July celebrations. In the meantime, Winslow's Public Works Department has been actively cleaning up debris at the site.
We took about 53 truckloads of wood debris out of there, along with 2 truckloads of basically trash, stuff that had floated down the river.
Whatever renovations are made, the town of Winslow and its residents are dedicated to preserving this historic landmark for future generations to enjoy. In Winslow, I'm Jody Hersey for ABC 7 and Fox 22 News.
All right, still to come here this morning, Tyler Cruz will have the latest with sports. Don't go away.
A rookie stunt driver.
Again.
Will prove he's got what it takes in this year's most exciting Nissan sales event.
Get a low $329 per month lease on the 2023 Nissan Rogue.
Act fast. These President's Day offers end soon.
R&K Variety is more than just a convenience store. With delicious homemade food made fresh daily. We offer hearty meals that don't break the bank. Whether it be our delicious chicken pot pie, one of our many savory soups, or a pizza, you can't go wrong at R&K Variety. Looking for a drink after a long workday? R&K Variety is an agency liquor store with an impressive selection. R&K Variety, more than just a convenience store. We're your neighbor, chef, barista, and friend. Stop by today.
Hi, I'm Angelina Mucci.
And I'm Andy Mucci of Family Fun Bowling Center.
When we want to know the weather, we go to foxbangor.com.
Celebrating our 50th anniversary year, Family Fun Bowling Center has 20 lanes of 10-pin bowling at its best. Dedication, teamwork, and passion has driven your team to the state championships. Now it's time to cheer them on. Coastal Auto Parts has what you need to get to the big game. Get up and go.
A rookie stunt driver.
Again.
Will prove he's got what it takes in this year's most exciting Nissan sales event.
Get a low $329 per month lease on the 2023 Nissan Rogue.
Act fast. These President's Day offers end soon.
All the nonsense
Fibber fibber.
meets no nonsense.
I don't buy it.
Judge Judy.
Weekdays at 5 on ABC 7.
Welcome back in, everyone. Thank you for staying with us. Let's go to the basketball court. Where else would I be? March is just around the corner, and we had our first selection show of the season on Monday, with the Division III basketball tournaments being revealed earlier in the afternoon. While we were all busy at the Cross Center and the Augusta Civic Center and whatnot, the Husson Eagles were out earning an automatic qualifier by winning the NAC championship this past weekend, defeating SUNY Cobleskill 80-70 in New York to send them to the dance for the second time in 3 years. It's also their 9th NAC title since 2009.
Yeah, really proud of our guys and the way they played in the conference tournament. And we had a bumpy patch there in January, but put things together in the last 6 games of the year, and really played on the defensive floor really well and played connected, and just so happy for our guys to perform at that level at the end of the season, which is what we all hope to do. And this year we happened to make a nice run.
The Eagles have earned a trip to the Big Apple to play the New York University Violets, the host of the region. That game tips off at 6:45 p.m. on Friday. NYU is the 14th ranked team in the nation, and they shoot at almost a 40% clip from beyond the arc. So it's going to be a tough matchup for them. Also the first matchup for the Eagles against a ranked team. So here's what Coach Caruso said about what has to happen for them to pull off the upset.
Well, one, you got to compete at a high level. I mean, we got to raise, we have not had the opportunity to play a nationally ranked team all year, so this will be an opportunity for us to measure ourselves and see where we're at. And, it's going to take a great overall performance from everyone we have, and a little bit of luck, the ball bounce our way, and, what we're looking for is an opportunity to win the game in the last 2 minutes. And if we can do that, I like our group.
Also part of that region are Tufts and Stockton, and Maine Maritime women are in the dance as well. They head to Smith College in Northampton, Mass. for their regional. Staying on the subject of basketball tournaments, the Maine high school regional tournaments are all wrapped up as of Saturday night. Congratulations to all the athletes around the state for putting on another awesome week-long show, but we are not done yet. Still 20 teams remain, and there are 10 gold balls to hand out this weekend. Let's take a look at those matchups. All right, on Friday for Class B states, Oceanside and Old Town will play at 6 p.m. from the Cross Center for girls, and then Oceanside and Orono, their second matchup in 2 years, 7:45 p.m. for the boys' gold ball. On Saturday for A girls, it's Coney and Brunswick, and A boys, it's Hamden Academy and Gray New Gloucester. For AA girls, Cheverus and Gorham. Gorham in it for AA boys as well. They'll play Wyndham, those games at 7 and 8:45. And then also on Saturday from Augusta, D girls, Southern Rustic and Valley play at 1 p.m. and then Bangor Christian plays Valley at 2:45. And for the night session, Dexter and Halldale play at 7, and Mount View and Monmouth both tip off at 8:45 p.m. Good luck to everyone involved there. Let's stay with some basketball now. Over the weekend, Maine women's basketball coach Amy Vachon reached yet another milestone in her relatively young coaching career. With a 72-46 victory at NJIT on Saturday afternoon, Vachon clinched her 100th win in America East play, becoming just the 6th coach in America East to reach that milestone. It took her just 127 games to do so, dating back to 2016-2017 when she took over the program, posting a record of 127 in 6 full seasons and 14 games this year. She's the second quickest coach to reach that milestone. This year is her 7th full season at the helm. And she will look for 101 on Thursday when Maine hosts Binghamton at the Pit. All right, let's go to the Celtics now. Just 25 games left in the year for the NBA's best team, and they're currently on an 8-game win streak dating back to before the All-Star break. Sees most recently taking down another contender in the Eastern Conference in the New York Knicks at Madison Square Garden Saturday. With the end of the season near, the Celtics hold a 7.5-game lead on the second-place team in the East, the Cleveland Cavaliers. The Knicks are in fourth. Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, and Kristaps Porzingis combined for over 70 this weekend. And the guys say that ability to have anyone step up on any given night is what makes them so dangerous.
The guys understand how they positively impact each other. They understand how going to something at one point in the game is going to open it up for somebody else later in the game. And, so we have different combinations and the guys trust those combinations. And it puts us in a better position to win. And at the end of the day, it's about winning. And the guys are understanding that, and they understand how they affect each other.
Everybody's feeling good. Everybody's scoring. We're all dangerous. Everybody has made a sacrifice. And I think people from outside kind of see that, but us as players, we know what we're doing, and we know what the goal is. So.
All right, they play the Sixers Tuesday at 7:30. That's all the time we have for sports. We'll be right back after the break.
Discover new opportunities together in a new Chevy. Meet up in an award-winning Equinox. Lend a hand in the Silverado with up to 14 available camera views. Or mix it up in the Trax with an 11-inch diagonal display screen. Find the Chevy that's right for you. Drive yours away this President's Day. Current Chevy owners can get $6,000 total cash allowance when you trade in an eligible vehicle. Or well-qualified buyers can get 2.9% financing on all 2024 Silverado 1500 pickups when you finance with GM Financial.
Oh, what a good time we will have. You can make it happen, girl.
Try dietary supplements from Voltaren for healthy joints.
For the best selection in classic and contemporary furnishings, stop by Richard Parks Furniture on High Street in Ellsworth. Handcrafted New England-made bedrooms and dining rooms, imported Scandinavian recliners and upholstery, more than 40 lines of furniture for the home and patio. Richard Parks Furniture is your #1 stop for quality, functionality, and well-designed furniture at affordable prices. Richard Parks Furniture.
Discover Richard Parks.
132 High Street in Ellsworth.
Discover Richard Parks.
Harris Lumber is locally owned and has been serving the Pequot region for more than 50 years. See them for all your projects, big or small. Customer service is their #1 priority. And with a full line of lumber and hardware items, they can also deliver to your job site. Harris Lumber, Milo.
All right, now let's get one final look at that forecast with meteorologist Conrad Sapinski.
Today's weather is brought to you by Washington County Community College. Discover choices, create success. Sign up for spring and summer courses now. And folks, get ready. A big low pressure system is on the way. For now, it's in the western states, right about here, North Dakota, South Dakota, into Minnesota. We are looking at some heavy snow where winter storm warnings have been posted. Some places well over 6 inches of snow. All of that's going to work its way right into our area. It's going to go from west to east, of course, and we're going to get in on a lot of rain at first, then a little bit of rain and snow overnight. Not much accumulations of snow, mainly a rain event all over the state. Look at this. It's going to be moving in past midnight. So by those early morning hours on Wednesday, rain will be moving in heavy at times, continuing throughout the day. There will be a couple of breaks in the day, and then the heavier rain rolls in later into those afternoon hours on Wednesday into Thursday morning. Then a cold front comes by, a very sharp cold front will be coming by, transitioning that rain into some snow. So on the back end, we might have just a little tiny bit of snow accumulations. But rainfall wise though, wow, check this out. Bar Harbor over 2 inches of rain into Machias. So right by the coast, we're looking at over 2 inches of rain. Here in town, Dover Foxcroft, we're looking at over 1 inch of rain, even up to 1.5 inches. And then closer to Greenville, hovering at around 1 inch of rain. Now, snowfall wise though, we're not looking at at much at all. We're looking at maybe half an inch to an inch here in town on the back end, and then up north, anywhere 1 to 2 inches of snow. So very, very minimal accumulations only on the back end. But watch out, folks. We're going to get that flash freeze where temperatures are going to go from well above freezing to below freezing just like that, around 5 degrees of cooling per hour. So get ready for that. Temperatures near record highs on Wednesday, very cold by Thursday, and then right back up. Look at this, near record high territory by the weekend and into beginning of next week. Now for today though, mid-40s outside, above average of course, mostly sunny skies. It's going to be a bit windy as well. For tonight though, that's when that rain arrives. We're going to see increasing clouds. Rain will be here after midnight. Temperatures around 39, so all rain to start. It's going to be windy as well. For tomorrow though, rain heavy at times. Temperatures near record highs around 50 degrees with some really gusty winds. Our extended forecast outlook does show some snow on the back end on Thursday, and then we warm back up to the 40s by Saturday.
Roto-Rooter has served the greater Bangor area and beyond for 35 years, offering plumbing, hydrojetting, snaking, descaling, video inspection, and grease interceptor cleaning services. For all your residential and commercial clogs, call Roto-Rooter today, 990-1234.
And away go troubles down the drain. Roto-Rooter.
Does your dream kitchen look like this? Or this? Or maybe you need a little more inspiration? Get it when you explore the complete in-store showroom displays at Hammond Lumber Company. When you find the look you like, the Hammond team will help you customize it, including accurate 3D renderings, so you can visualize your project before the work begins. Hammond offers delivery from any of the locations across Maine and New Hampshire and professional service after the sale. Your dream kitchen begins when you bring your vision to Hammond Lumber Company.
In 10 years, Lisa Schneider will have an amazing second act, thanks to career reskilling courses from AARP to help make sure her income lives as long as she does. The younger you are, the more you need AARP.
Don't cry, don't whine. Get yours where I got mine. At BB's Tattoo Company, 262 Moosehead Trail, Newport.
Let's go get married.
Let's do it. Please don't die on our wedding night.
The Rookie. New tonight, 9/8 Central on ABC.
Joy and disbelief among students at New York City's Albert Einstein School of Medicine on Monday. They learned in a school assembly that longtime Board of Trustees chairwoman Dr. Ruth Gottsman is gifting the school $1 billion to make tuition free for current fourth-year students and every student enrolling in the future. The massive donation is in the name of her late husband. Wow, what an amazing gift, and that will really kind of trickle down and benefit everybody, because we need more doctors and nurses and stuff like that. Okay, looks like we're running out of time for today. If you missed anything, you can head to foxbangor.com. We'll continue broadcasting on Fox 22, and here on ABC 7, Good Morning America is next. We hope you have a great Tuesday.